No days off, no excuses, pain talk. I speak fluent, they arrest, I keep moving. Same goal, new bruise, no days off, no sleep. Mind sharp, routine beat. You wish I repeat every rep built.
From the air, the border between Texas and Mexico looks like a single, seamless metropolis. This is the Borderplex, a massive, bilingual economic engine where El Paso and Ciudad Juárez function as one city. Between 2008 and 2012, this region experienced a statistical paradox. While El Paso remained one of the safest cities in America, the murder rate just yards away in Juárez skyrocketed, claiming nearly 10,000 lives. Most media reports explain the violence as a turf war initiated by the Sinaloa Cartel. Under the leadership of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, professional hitmen moved to seize control of the city's drug trafficking corridors. Defending the city was the long-established Juárez Cartel, led by Vicente Carrillo Fuentes. This framing created the image of a two-sided drug war between rival titans. But this narrative ignores the reality. The violence represents the collapse of the city's political and social infrastructure, requiring a different framework to understand how the underworld actually functions. The system relies on a middle layer called the guarantors. These are the local police, politicians, and state investigators who serve as underworld middlemen. They provide physical protection and ensure that criminal personnel are never prosecuted. Historically, the Juárez cartel maintained the peace by buying off these guarantors. By co-opting the state's own representatives, the cartel rendered the local authorities powerless to stop their operations. When the Sinaloa Cartel moved into Juárez in 2008, they systematically targeted these guarantors. They assassinated the specific police officers and politicians who managed the Juárez cartel's protection shield. Attacking these middlemen plunged the city into chaos. The collapse proved that control of a narco-economy relies on corrupting the state's infrastructure, not just moving illegal products. Facing a purge by Sinaloa, the surviving police officers mutated into their own heavily armed wing, fighting to protect their share of the profits. They formed a paramilitary group known as La Línea. La Línea escalated the conflict into urban warfare. Using advanced military tactics and their knowledge of state intelligence, these former officers fought to repel the Sinaloa incursions. In 2010, the group deployed a car bomb on 5 de Mayo Street. This narco-terrorism tactic used an injured man as bait to lure rival police and paramedics into the blastdown. Law enforcement had inverted. Instead of stopping the cartel war, the police became its most technologically advanced combatants. To manage the street-level chaos, the Juárez cartel brought in Barrio Azteca. This U.S.-born prison gang provided the discipline and manpower needed to hold the city's neighborhoods. Barrio Azteca functions like a franchise. At the bottom, Indios handle street-level sales and extortion. They pass a fixed quota of the revenue up through a rigid hierarchy of sergeants, lieutenants, and captains. The gang regenerates its ranks by controlling the state jails. For new inmates, joining Barrio Azteca becomes a matter of self-preservation, turning the prison system into a mandatory recruitment center. This multi-faction war led to systematic massacres. In 2010, gunmen targeted a party in the V.S. de Salvarcart neighborhood, killing 16 teenagers who had no ties to organized crime. The brutality of these attacks enveloped daily life, sparing no demographic. The violence reached a point where families were targeted in public spaces, leaving the city in a state of constant terror. Systematic terror, engineered by mutated gangs and corrupt police, forced the civilian population and rival guarantors into submission. Eventually, the homicide rate dropped. This shift didn't come through legal reform or the standard justice system, but through a massive deployment of federal power. The state responded with brute force. Led by Police Chief Julian Lezaola, authorities used militarized tactics and warrantless raids to crush the warring factions. In this new reality, the Sinaloa Cartel is considered the victor. They now maintain control by paying fiso to a new generation of guarantors who oversee the smuggling routes. While the murders have decreased, the community still demands justice. Thousands of citizens remain missing, and the trauma of the occupation continues to affect the city's social fabric. The current peace in Juárez sits on a fragile foundation of corrupt guarantors. The war proved that drug violence is not an infection fighting the state. It is a system involving the state. Until the foundation changes, the next conflict is just waiting for a spark.
Today, we're diving into an intelligence report that reveals a terrifying new kind of war, a war for control over the deadliest drug on the planet. This is a story of what some are calling Cartel Armageddon. It sounds like a line from a movie script, doesn't it? But this is the real-life event that actually triggered an all-out civil war. And to really get a grip on the chaos that's raging, you have to start with this single, stunning act of betrayal. So, picture this. July 25th, 2024. Elmael Zambada, a legend, a ghost who've never been caught for decades, is lured into a trap. And who sets the trap? The sons of his old partner, El Chapo. They ambush him, drug him, and hand him over. And to cover their tracks, they murder a local congressman right there at the scene and make it look like a simple carjacking gone wrong. This one event, well, it was the match that lit the whole powder keg. See, El Mayo's kidnapping didn't just create a power vacuum, it unleashed a cartel's civil war with a level of brutality that has completely reshaped the entire criminal world. And look, intelligence analysts, they're not just calling this another gang war. No way. They're calling it a structural transformation. To give you some perspective, they're comparing it to the breakup of the Guadalajara cartel, which is the very event that created the modern cartel system in the first place. So yeah, this is a historic shift, and it is being written in blood. The human cost is just staggering. In a little over a year, the state of Sinaloa alone saw more than 2,100 homicides tied directly to this war. That's a 400% jump. But that number, believe it or not, isn't even the whole picture. In that exact same time frame, another 2,000 people just vanished, disappeared. It's a tactic meant to create absolute terror, leaving thousands of families with zero answers, zero closure. This isn't just killing, it's erasure. So why? Why this level of violence? Why would the most powerful trafficking organization in the world tear itself apart from the inside? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The prize is worth it. And that prize is the fentanyl death machine. It's a global supply chain built for one thing: poison. It all starts in China, where over 80% of the precursor chemicals are made, sometimes even with government tax rebates helping them along. Those chemicals get shipped to Mexico, where cartel super labs cook them into millions of fake pills. And then, the final product gets smuggled into the U.S., not usually through the desert, like you see in movies, but overwhelmingly through official ports of entry. The money behind this trade is so insane, it's almost hard to believe. But it explains everything. It costs a cartel about 2 cents to make a single fentanyl pill. On the streets in the U.S., that same pill can sell for up to $60. That is a 3,000 times markup. It's the most profitable criminal business on earth, period. Now, to control a prize that big, the cartels have had to change their game. This war isn't just being fought with AK-47s anymore. It's a full-blown, high-tech arms race, and these groups are innovating at a speed that is truly terrifying. Just take a look at their use of weaponized drones. Back in 2020, there were only 5 recorded attacks. By the middle of 2023, that number had exploded to over 260. And yeah, it dipped a bit in 2024, but it's crystal clear that weaponized drones are now a standard part of their arsenal. And this is where it gets genuinely alarming. The intelligence report shows that cartel operatives have actually gone to Ukraine's International Legion, not to fight, but to learn. They are studying the most advanced battlefield tactics from a modern state-on-state war. What are they learning about? Specifically, FPV drones. That's first-person view. Now, these aren't your typical surveillance drones. Think of them as small, incredibly agile kamikaze drones. The operator wears video goggles, guiding it in for a precision strike, turning it into a guided missile that can take out an armored truck. Experts at the Atlantic Council are saying this knowledge transfer could literally leapfrog cartel capabilities forward by 5 to 10 years, almost overnight. They are adopting military tactics from a full-scale nation-state war. And it doesn't stop with drones. Their armored monster trucks, they're now being fitted with those Ukrainian-style cope cages you see online to defend against drone strikes. They're using Elon Musk's Starlink for battlefield comms in the middle of nowhere. They've developed unmanned, remote-controlled narco-submarines. And maybe most chilling of all, they've started using drones to drop chemical agents. Let's be clear, these aren't games anymore. They are sophisticated paramilitary forces. So, faced with this rapidly evolving threat, the United States has launched an aggressive counteroffensive. But it's stuck in this strange paradox, where the very act of fighting back seems to pour more fuel on the fire. So, what does this American counteroffensive actually look like on the ground? Well, the strategy has a few key parts. At the heart of it all is the decapitation strategy. For decades, the playbook has been the same. Take out the leaders. The idea is simple, right? You cut off the head of the snake, and the body will wither and die. But remember El Mayo, the ultimate prize of this strategy? Well, the intelligence report is pretty blunt about what happened. His removal didn't dismantle the Sinaloa Cartel. In fact, it acted as a catastrophic catalyst that directly kicked off the Civil War and all the violence we just talked about. The strategy backfired in the most spectacular way possible. And yet, despite this, the U.S. has basically just doubled down. In 2025, 6 major cartels were designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which opens the door for direct military action. They've carried out over 22 strikes on suspected drug vessels, and they've extradited a record 55 high-level cartel members in a single year. It's a huge show of force, but the fundamental problem just isn't going away. And this all leads us to the report's final and, frankly, very sobering conclusion. It suggests this whole conflict might be based on a fundamental mismatch, one that maybe makes the fight unwinnable. Analysts have a name for it: the command center paradox. The idea is that the very systems governments build to stop these threats are the same systems the cartels learn to exploit. High-security prisons, they become command centers run off smuggled cell phones. Complex banking laws, they just create the loopholes the cartels use to launder billions. The system designed for security gets in its own way. And that really highlights the core problem here, the asymmetry of the fight. On one side, you have the cartels. They operate like ruthless, super agile tech startups. They innovate constantly, they adapt instantly, and their only rule is the pursuit of profit. And on the other side, you have governments. They're slower, tied down by laws, by borders, by bureaucracy. One is built for speed, the other is built for stability. So when you boil it all down, the report leaves us with one haunting question. In a war that's all about adaptation, can a bureaucracy, with all its rules and regulations, ever really win against an opponent that operates like a hyper-violent, borderless, tech-driven corporation? The answer to that is going to define the future of this war and the security of an entire continent.
Undercover's coming with the thunder. You better watch out.